Hello, my lovelies. Happy Wednesday. Happy scoping out. We're doing something a little different today because we need a little follow up from last week. Last week we were talking about happiness and why sometimes doing the right thing doesn't actually end up feeling good and it can wear you out. And the topic was really about if you're doing the good thing but it's coming from an angry place, then it's not sustainable and it's going to run through your resources pretty quickly, right? And you end up becoming the thing that you're resisting. Well, some of you were like, okay, that's great in theory, but how do you actually do that when your ire is up and change needs to happen and you actually really genuinely are upset with the world, or maybe just your spouse or something really close to home? So I wanted to answer that question today, because if we can't put practical action to these theories, then they're all just pie in the sky theories, right? We need to know what to do. This is one of the reasons I wrote this book and created this telecourse. For All is Love, right? And we're going to talk today about identifying your fours. This is one of the very first things that you can do to tap into a different place to operate from. We all know what we want. When we start thinking about, what do you want? What would you do with $1 million? The answers are pretty standard. I want financial freedom. I want a happy family. I want good health, right? We have sort of these standard answers. But when I ask you, what are you for? And I start asking you, what are you willing to struggle for? What do you stand for? Those answers are a little bit different, right? Because suddenly you are for better communication, more time with your family, connection, honesty, peace. The answers that come out of that question go much deeper. And of course, there's exercises and things that get you down there. So this is a little, hopefully 5 to 8 minute video, right? So once you identify that becomes sort of that base litmus test for you to understand how is it you're coming into a potential argument or into a potential crisis when you have decided that something needs to change or that it's your turn to take action. Because this certainly isn't about be the nice person and be passive and let everybody just stomp all over you and be a doormat and let everybody else be the bad guy. That is not this. We can still be change agents in the world. We can still be good self-advocates in our relationships at home and at work without being without coming from this aggressive, self-serving, defensive place, right? So once you identify those fours, you want to understand that you are looking to apply those in every aspect. So if you actually are for peace, and you want to see peace in the world, and you want to be peace, how do you do that and still affect change? You check in. Is this a peaceful response? And what I mean by peace, obviously, it's not lack of conflict. It can't be lack of conflict, right? Peace is being still in the face of chaos. So when you are peaceful, suddenly everything else takes on a new hue, right? That bad guy has peace in them. You can't have it if they don't have it, and you can't spot it in them if it's not in you, right? And you start to shift. And you start to look at things from a completely different perspective. The more peaceful you are, the more kind you are, the more compassionate you are, the better listener you are, the more curious you are. Whatever your fours are, the more you build on those, the more you bring those to these conflict situations. So now instead of saying, you did, you suddenly start going, I don't understand. Explain to me. You give them an opportunity to be heard. You give them a chance to blah. And while you're in peace, while you are peace, right? You give them a chance to let it all out so they can come to a listening space. Whether or not they get to that is on them, but you're giving them that opportunity. And you're not wearing yourself out trying to talk to somebody who doesn't have ears to hear. You're not wearing yourself out building up all this angst and anger, wondering why the hell they don't see life the way that you see life, right? Because believe me, we can get that ire up so quickly when all we have is an agenda. But when we answer our fours, that curiosity, that love, that peace, the compassion, when we go, is this action for that? Does this serve that for? When we do that as a matter of practice, we can't help but start to show up differently, because now suddenly we're assuming positive intent in others. We're assuming that, even though we don't agree, that these people feel like they're doing what's best in the world, right? And it's not about coming in and changing their mind anymore or making them show up any differently. It's about looking for that little piece of common ground, right? So a quick example is when if somebody has a story that everybody out in the world except them is taking advantage, they're lazy, they're selfish, they're whatever, right? If that's their story, and I'm the good guy and I always get the short end of the stick, then somebody's simple mistake is going to look like somebody else just taking advantage, right? Now, if that person considers themselves a good guy, if that person says, I'm a good person, I always give people a fair shot, but one little mistake and suddenly that fair shot goes away, then that they're not showing up with that 4. So if that 4 is giving people a fair shot, fairness, right? If that is the 4, then the interaction becomes different. So the question then becomes, if I'm going to come at somebody, finding out why they did this and why they screwed me over, if I'm just going to come at them with my own defensiveness, I'm going to wear myself out. I'm not going to change their mind. I'm going to hurt somebody along the way who just simply made a mistake. And I'm going to walk away not feeling happy, not feeling at peace, not feeling like anything got resolved. I'm going to walk away being upset, right? So what happens is when I check in and when this person checks in and says, okay, if I'm for fairness, what am I willing to struggle for? What am I willing to practice for? What am I willing to put out there? Then I want to come in all fairness. Now it becomes a question. Hey, this is how I saw this event. Is this how you intended it? Right? And the person, oh no, oh my gosh, no, not at all. Well, that's a really bad way to do business. You're right. Oh my goodness, right? Or even if their defenses get up, right? You have a chance to say, look, I get it. We all make mistakes. I'm trying to be as fair as I can be. I know if it was my business, I would want to know where my holes are. Do with it what you will. Thank you for, showing up and doing the best that you can. Maybe it's not a fit for future business or whatever that conversation looks like, right? But the approach becomes very, very different. And now that seed for change can be planted. It's a long game, yes. This isn't an immediate beat somebody into submission until they treat you the way that you want to be treated. It doesn't work that way. But you have a chance to plant that seed now because you've mushed up that soil a little bit. You've gotten it safe to receive the seed. Where beforehand it wasn't safe, right? You put up your iron, they put their iron, suddenly everybody just iron up, right? So in practice, you always want to say, is this how I want to show up? And let me tell you, you're not going to get it right out of the gate. You're just not. That's okay. Let that be okay. What is going to happen is the more that you goof it up, remember, fail to win, right? You've got to goof it up to get to the right space. The more you goof it up, the more you realize you have place to practice. Now you're struggling for those things again. You're working for those things. Those 4s are up in front of you as a litmus test for where your practice is and where you have improvement. And that's all it needs to mean. Not that you're screwed up, not that, oh, you're the selfish one and I thought it was everybody else and no, it's me, now I'm the asshole, right? It's not any of those things. It becomes this soft, gentle way for you to treat yourself. Let yourself be your first practice ground for your 4s too. Kindness, fairness, compassion, patience, peace. Okay? So this is how you do it. It is a constant check-in process. It is a process of trial and error sometimes because you're changing an old pattern in the brain. Those are huge, deep ruts that have told you for a long time to show up jaded and show up angry and show up defensive, right? And you can quicken that a little bit by visualizing how you want to show up. In the case of conflict, you can quicken that because the brain doesn't know the difference between what is happening now and what you're visualizing. So the more you visualize yourself showing up with fairness, with honesty, with courtesy, with compassion, with patience, the more your brain goes, oh, right, when these things happen, this is how I show up. And then when the thing happens, your brain goes, oh, right, this is where we turn on the kindness. It gets easier over time. Be patient with yourself. Let me know how it goes. I'm doing the same homework over here, constantly trying to make sure that I'm showing up in the world as the person that I want to be. So let me know how it goes. Keep me posted either here on the blog. Remember to subscribe. Where do I put the subscribe button? Somewhere around here. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you next Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Goodbye, my lovelies. Be the change you wish to see in the world.